LED lights getting more and more advanced. When we are looking nowadays in our homes, then you might realize that the good old bulb has extinct. Low energy consumption, less heat and a dramatically increase of efficiency are only a few of the advantages of LED lights. But not only consumer electronics have been taken by it like a storm, also the majority of filmmakers and more photographers are swearing on it. Strobe photography might be one of the last segments where LED lights are not a thing. That means so far. Where FV150 and where FV200 are permanent lights with built-in effects and a flash function. Let's find out if it's a great thing or just obscurity. Grab your favorite pet, your beverage of choice, and let's roll that intro. The Godox FV series are COB lights made of metal. The construction feels really robust and sturdy, only the backplate feels a little plasticky, but the buttons have a great response and I like their click. The both knobs are really soft but never felt mushy to me. The lights are powered over regular DC cable, which you might recognize from guitar amps or computers. The LED display is well readable even from a distance of 2 or 3 meters. I really like the approach of their mounting system, cause you can also mount the light upside down. And another great solution is the lock mechanism, which gives me a lot of trust to hold up even big and heavy parabol softboxes as the Light Dome by Aputure or the Godox PL series. But if you want to make sure that the light will hold for a while, then you might consider to attach a counterweight on the back handle of the device. On the front is the heart of the COB light, the huge LED chip. For light formers, Godox builds on almost of their strobes and permanent lights the Bowens mount. This is a great choice because it is the most common light mount for photographers and filmmakers with an infinite selection of light formers as softboxes, beauty dishes, barn doors and many more. But if you want to use an umbrella, Godox got your back. Below the mount is a fitting umbrella holder for this purpose. In the light mode, you can control the output of the lights via the knobs or the included RCA6 remote, which is really useful if you need to control from a distance or if you have a really sensitive setup. My recommendation is always to use a really strong light stand. I made in the past really bad experiences with low budget stands and I switched eventually to C stands. They might be really pricey, but in the end of the day, they save you a lot of headache and money. Godox actually announced this month that they will also offer professional light stands in the near future. The output goes in 1% steps down to 0, which is an improvement over the SL series, where the lowest output was 10%. 150 watts are really powerful, at least in this light. I know watts are not a good measurement, but as a guideline it is helpful to have an idea in which league this light plays. Godox claims that the FV150 has an output of 58,000 lux on 1 meter and the FV200 74,000 lux. This output is legit, but only achievable with the reflector attached. Without a reflector I measured around 12,000 lux on the FV150, which is still impressive. This light is a little stronger than the Aputure 120D Mark I, which is really great, but power is not everything. Some people claim that the Godox lights might have in general a little green tint, which is actually not a big issue because over the time it might become more and more magenta, and on the other hand it is easy to fix in post. I cannot tell that any of their lights affected in the past so much the skin tones, but if you really want to work color accurate, then you need a color correction tool like a color chart, or you should consider to buy an Aputure instead. I like how the Godox FV150 forms the light with the attached reflector, and it is an improvement over the SL60. And another improvement is the built-in fan. The SL series had really loud fans and I had to replace mine to have a way better experience. Long story short, Godox listened to the complaints of their users and the FV series is really silent, but SV aperture lights still recognizable. In a live scenario, you would never point your microphone directly to the light, but on your talent. If you click on the left knob, you can activate the light effects. There are several effects like paparazzi or TV lights, which is neat but not really necessary. I saw that feature on many other lights in a way better form, cause you can only change the light intensity but not the speed or the interval of that effect. The other downside is that you just have one color temperature. Sure, you could apply a gel, but in the end I would prefer to have those effects in a RGB light. So let's come to the main attraction, the flash function. When we click on the knob, we can switch between both modes. The first thing we recognize is that the light actually has its lowest start point at 1/16th of a second, which is actually a pity. The most strobes or flashes are starting 1 or 2 stops lower, and at this high starting point it is really hard to compensate. But anyhow, the flash function is not as powerful as you might think. But let us first talk about the triggers. The FV series is compatible with the X Pro or the X2 by Godox, which is great cause this means that we can easily combine several Godox flashes, for example as my Godox TT600, which I really often use for fill or background light. I own actually the X Pro C for Canon and the X Pro O for Olympus and Panasonic cameras. There are also other versions for Pentax, Sony, Nikon and Fuji. What I really like about them is that I can actually use my X Pro O on my Canon and vice versa, at least in manual mode. The FV series supports high-speed sync, so it makes totally sense to use the right one on their specific camera. In flash mode you can achieve 2 more whole stops of light in comparison to the permanent light, which is still less than the AD200 or the V1 by Godox. Also the flash curve is way longer than a regular flash, and this is really recognizable if your subject is moving really fast. This might cause motion blur even in 1/500th of a second, and you have for sure to shoot in HSS mode to freeze your subject. For portraits or product shots it is enough, but to freeze for example a dancer might be really hard. What I really liked about the flash mode is the modeling light. It has in fact the same color temperature because it comes from the same LEDs as the flash. On regular flashes you have most of the time a separate lamp with a different temperature, which makes it difficult to predict the result or taking a proper white balance. So why did I got that light? I'm a hybrid shooter with a small studio and I love to be flexible in my photo corner. Sometimes I film or taking pictures with permanent light, but on the other day I need a flash to freeze the smoke in a shot and to save some space and time instead of building up a whole another setup is just so helpful. In fact, the FV150 lives permanent on my C-stand and I shot in the last time almost everything with that COB light. B-rolls, interviews, portrait photos and product shots. Everything works flawlessly with this light as long as your subject is not moving too fast. Of course, it will not replace a classic flash, at least not at the moment. But on the other hand, it shows us what we can expect in the next years from the LED strobes. With its price between $350 and $400 for the FV150 and around $100 more for the FV200, you get a lot of light for your money, and this might be a great solution for hybrid shooters with small studio space. What do you think about the FV series? Does it fit your needs as a hybrid shooter? Let us discuss that in the comments below. I hope that video was interesting to you and entertaining. If you liked that, you can show me your appreciation with a like and a subscribe to this humble channel. So, that's it. I'm Konrad, this is Shutterhouse. See you in the next one.